GT Blankies proudly presents Musings with Steve and Teresa. They're here to enlighten, entertain, and inform about issues they think are important. They want people to think about how positive actions make positive people. Their show is captured and linked to YouTube. The programs are listed in the archives of both Blog Talk Radio and YouTube video, and you can watch it as well as listen. Now on with the show.
Hello everyone, welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Our show is captured and linked to YouTube, and the programs are listed in the archives of both Blog Talk Radio and YouTube. It's Musings with Steve and Teresa, and you can watch as well as listen. Links can be found on our Facebook page. And strangely enough, we refer to our efforts as Musings with Steve and Teresa. I'm Steve, a co-host.
I'm Teresa, the other co-host.
Now, we're here to enlighten, entertain, inform about issues that we think are important. We want people to think about how positive actions make positive people, and we got a couple of good shots at that today. Terry, what have we got for the blankie board?
Some things that I'm considering for spring. I got in the blankie drawer, and I've been told to get a little more edgy and not so cutesy with some of my blankies. So I got in the drawer, and it's pretty cutesy, but I did find some tigers here that I think are quite nice, and I've made pillows out of this before, but I think we're going to make a blankie out of it and maybe put like hunter green or brown around it or copper. And then I have these giant hankies that I have in my fabric drawer that I always thought these would make some very interesting blankies.
Maybe wall hangings.
Or a wall hanging even, yeah. I think I'm going to cover both of these with hunter green maybe, and to kick that off. And then I got this one here that I'm going to call Kitty Cat Love. Because it has all the different kitties, and it says, I love cats, I love cats, I love cats. And let's see, I've already put backs with it, and then I've got this real nice mottled green back on this. And I think this one, it's either going to get pink or like that real bright fluorescent green that I have. And I think that'll really pop it.
I'll bet that would.
And I'll get those finished soon, and we'll put them on the Facebook. And
get these people in here and get some good blankies.
Yeah, I'm going to look for some different fabrics. I was told to go a little edgy too, so I'm going to see what I can find in the edgy department that is still acceptable for child care or child thing. You know, but I've looked, and they like one of the new things with the kids is this Monster High stuff. So there's fabrics out there that have skulls and crossbones on them and sparkles and pink bows on the skulls and different things like that. She said, come on, let's go for some grunge. And I said, well,
I'll make it available.
Well, yeah, we'll make a few and see what happens, you know. You never know. You know?
Well, great. Incidentally, I had a contact from our cousin Kathy, and she says that the camera does us well.
Yeah, well, that's good.
I got a story here. An elderly man in Louisiana had owned a large farm for several years, and he had a good-sized pond out back, nicely shaped for swimming, and so he fixed it up nice with picnic tables, horseshoe courts, some apples, some peach trees. One evening, the old farmer decided to go down to the pond. He hadn't been there for a while, and he wanted to look it over. And he grabbed up a 5-gallon bucket to bring back some apples and some peaches. And as he neared the pond, he heard voices shouting and laughing with glee. And as he came closer, he found a bunch of young women skinny dipping in his pond. He made the women aware of his presence, and they all went to the deep end. They said, one of the women said, we're not coming out till you leave. Now, the title of this story is Fast Thinking at the Swimming Pool. The old man frowned and said, I didn't come down here to watch you ladies swim naked or make you get out of the pool naked. I just came down to feed the alligator.
I didn't know where that one was going. I haven't heard these jokes yet.
I didn't read that one to you yet. Well, you found a neat story about the Ford company promising to bring back
jobs back to Ohio.
And they announced that they're going to. You got it there? Read it there.
All righty. It says announcement just in the. I got it from Sherrod Brown's Facebook page. Our wonderful senator. He posts lots of good stuff. But it says here in Cleveland that they're adding. Ford is bringing back 450 jobs to America. It doesn't quite say. I would assume it's to Cleveland because they're talking to the Cleveland plant manager.
The one where the cousin works.
Yeah, Honda.
No.
Well, whatever. But for the same area, right?
Same area, yeah.
They're bringing back jobs they're bringing them back over from Spain, of all places, to produce North Americans vehicles. Let's see, what does it say? The plant.
They're going to do a 4-cylinder super
2-liter engine.
Yeah.
That'll do the. Here it is.
A supercharged
3.5 liter EcoBoost engine and a 3.7 liter V8. Ford is investing $20 million to prepare the plant for the new. Oh, that's the old one, or no, 2-liter EcoBoost. They get all kinds of fancy names, but basically what it is, they've made a smaller engine that'll do the work of a bigger engine, and they're gonna 450 new jobs in Ohio coming back.
The small bore engines have to run at a high speed, which means that in most cases they have to put another gear in your gear shift, so that that they can start down and have the running fast, but have the power at the wheels. I'm telling you more than you need to know.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a supercharger with a new automatic transmission.
Well, they think it's one. They called our One Ford plan at its best, giving customers the power of choice to decide which fuel efficient. I can't talk today. Is best tailored to their needs. It said the Cleveland plant will be the first, or was the first, to produce EcoBoost engines, and will continue to be a strategic cornerstone. Got my tongue twisted on my eye tooth. I can't see what I'm saying. But anyway, Ford's real happy because they are now halfway to their goal of adding 12,000 hourly jobs in the U.S. by 2015. They said it's a new future for the 58-year-old Cleveland engine plant, and the auto industry is coming back, and they say they want to get it back in Ohio, and they believe the potential is there. So that's some good
way to go Ford.
Yeah. 450 jobs. That's not shabby.
Yeah. Well, got another old folks story. The old man decided his wife was getting hard of hearing. And he called her doctor, to make an appointment to have her hearing checked. And the doctor said he could see her in 2 weeks, and meanwhile there was a simple informal test that the husband could do to give the doctor some idea of the dimension of the problem. Here's what you do. Start about 40 feet away from her, speak in a normal conversational tone, and see what she hears. If not, go to 30 feet, then 20 feet, and so on till you get a response. So that evening, she's in the kitchen cooking dinner, and he's in the living room. He says to himself, I'm about 40 feet away. Let's see what happens. He says, honey, what's for supper? No response. So he moves to the other end of the room about 30 feet away. He says, honey, what's for supper? No response. So he moves to the dining room about 20 feet away, and he says, honey, what's for supper? No response. And under the kitchen door, it's only 10 feet away. Honey, what's for supper? So he walks right up behind her. He said, honey, what's for supper? She said, for the 5th time, chicken.
The wrong person was getting the hearing test, I think. That was not bad.
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned the last week about the Pope resigning, and that ties in with the other subject you want to talk about today is about the functioning of bureaucracies. And the Pope says that he's going to change the rules for the conclave
That's the big meeting that
yeah.
they have to decide who's going to be the new pope,
New
right?
pope. Well,
Okay.
the original rule said 15 days after the funeral that the popes would get together, and that gave them all time to come from the
Right, different places.
all the places they come.
And they come from all over the world, I would imagine.
So he says, under the circumstances here, that we're going to call a meeting. I didn't quite understand it. They're trying to get it done before Easter. And that's the first service for Easter is the 24th of March, I believe. So they've got to get the elections done.
They don't have much time.
Get the robes made.
Yeah, get the new guy. Yeah.
Anyway, but the thing that I wanted to point out was he is changing the rules of bureaucracy, and there are several things that have transpired in his. He's about 5 years, I think he's been in.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like very long.
But the thing is that there's a number of things that have occurred within the system or come to light. This is what it amounts to. There must be a great deal of infighting in there for it to get outside. They've been able to hold it in. But bureaucracies have things like that. And I wanted to mention it, and then we find out the
Speaking
Columbus
of bureaucracies.
the Columbus School Board gave Harris, the superintendent of schools,
a person,
unlimited power. It turns out. Now it said that back in
that was amazing.
A few years ago, they accepted the policy governance program for governing, and I had to look that up and read it.
Yeah, because that's a strange.
But basically, this professor put together a variation of Peter's principle. He's not going to appreciate that. But he made an outline. The policy governance is a fundamental redesign of the role of a board of directors.
Okay.
And emphasizing values, vision, and the empowerment of both the board and the staff, and it's built on 10 principles. Okay. Trust in the trusteeship. In other words, the board of directors represents the owners.
Right.
Now, it could be a church, it could be government, taxpayers, and so forth. The board speaks with one voice or not at all.
Okay.
The board decisions are predominantly policy decisions.
Okay, and everything runs by policy.
But it runs by policy. They talk about the ends and means, executive limitations, board staff linkage, how the board links to the staff and on down to the action. I'm covering my face there. And the governance process. The board formulates policy by determining the broadest values before progressing to more narrow ones. The board defines and delegates rather than reacting or ratifying. In other words, basically goes on to say the board says, we want you to run and play nice. And they
don't give us any problems.
And don't give us any problems, and we'll be checking on you. Okay. Well, anyway, it goes on to say how they were going to do it and so forth. They set goals.
Right.
Okay, you're going to increase sales 1%.
Right.
Or so
this or that,
how you're going to do it is entirely not their business. Now they can make committees over here on the board that advise, but normally speaking, the board of directors sometimes interferes with the management and says we ain't going to hire no more whatchamacallits and so forth. Well, anyway, Miss Harris, Jean Harris, took the job about 3 years ago, and the board gave her the control of the operation based on these principles of policy governance, and then they stepped back.
And didn't pay any attention.
Well, actually, I really don't have the answer. All I'm doing is pointing out the problem. Back when I was in accounting, if I asked you, I set up a system, and I asked you to report to me on how many times the group went to the bathroom. Okay? Now, if I didn't, after you fill that report and send it back to me, I didn't call you and say, Terry, this doesn't add up right, or I read your report and that's good, or I read your report and that's bad.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have feedback, within about 6 weeks, that report either wouldn't get done or it wouldn't mean anything, because you'd say, oops, I forgot that report, so you write down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and make the report, so it'd be trash.
Right.
Okay? So the feedback system is necessary to let the underling know that he has performed.
Well, nobody wants to think that their work is not even noticed.
Well, okay, this is what happens. If it's not noticed, then it ceases to be effective.
Right.
Okay, now with that observation in mind, then, the policy directions said we want to increase the percentage of the number of kids that go to school. We don't like the truancies. The truancy number down here is too big.
Right.
And the policy then says reduce the truancy number.
Right.
Well, it become now out of this they get federal money if they comply with this reduction of truancy.
Right.
Okay, so now over here to get the money, the guy that says we need more funding says to the guy that does the records, well, what can we do about this? And one of the people, about 3 layers down, said, well, instead of reporting these kids as truants, why don't we report them as dropouts?
So they decided to skew the numbers.
We draw, and that takes it out, and that puts it in another column over here about dropouts. Now, to keep that number down, then we'll re-enroll them as students, and they won't have a truancy record. So that'll put it back over in this pile, and we have made a truant, and we've recovered a truant, so that makes those records stay.
And they haven't done anything but juggle numbers.
They just juggled numbers. And the end result is then that the financial aid over here came because the numbers were good, and everybody says, ha, 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 and then the Columbus Dispatch comes in and starts
and says,
asking questions about how come this is happening, because what became apparent was that the other parts of the state of Ohio, not the Columbus School Board, the Columbus School Board was doing real good with their numbers, and the other guys weren't getting their financing because the numbers were wrong, and somebody blew the whistle.
Somebody decided to look, why are the numbers so good?
They're cheating. And that's, now, this is the problems that happen with bureaucracy, and Miss Harris gets the axe because she's at the head of the snake.
Yeah.
and quite possibly she didn't even know this was going on
when
it started. But when the newspaper got into it,
unethical business practices.
Well, we were talking on the way in today about the meetings of ethical stuff, and to, for instance, the guys in the Catholic Church not telling the Pope that we got difficulties in the troop. As you go up, it says we don't want to bother the guy with details there. Right. We'll just make it go away. So we'll take the guy that's in Arizona that's messing around. We moved him to Arkansas. Yeah. It's still in the A's. It won't make any difference. Well, it did turn out to be a difference, and it's been going on for 50 years.
That seems like
now it got to be a bad problem, and it blew up in the bureaucracy's problem. Yeah. So again, in a system like that, if you don't find the problem and address it and correctly, it will continue to grow.
I think part of the a better solution would be to provide that oversight that you said you were going to provide. Make people accountable for their actions and their reporting. And apparently, that kind of got overlooked.
Well. I had an experience. Okay, I was working in this company, and they were switching over to computers, and I had some background, and I did a couple of things. Well, he come up and they said, well, the next thing we need to do is the maintenance program. So I made them a schedule of how you would maintain the various motors and bearings and stuff in the thing, and it got presented to the owner, the chairman of the board, and he says, "Hey, do this," and it came back down, and I wrote the report, so it came back down to me. Do this.
Right.
My boss comes over and says, "I told him if he wanted it done to hire somebody, you're not to spend any of your working time making that report."
Okay.
Okay, that's the internal working. So my boss was fighting with the chairman of the board, and I was prohibited or prevented from participating in the thing.
And people wonder why everybody complains.
And nobody reported this back that my boss was the bottleneck.
Yeah.
He kept asking for the report, and it didn't come out. So finally he says, "Well, damn it, if Clark can't do it, you do it." So the guy come out, got my form, and filled it out and sent it in. And I said, "But that's not right." And he says he wanted a report filled in. I filled it in.
I gave him a report.
Now that's how it goes in the bureaucracy. And eventually my boss left, and then since I was tired with his tar, eventually I left.
You left too.
So, but anyway. Now we got another story we ought to read here.
Yes, I have one about how, we're always talking about positive people making positive actions. Well, here's a young man that has done something very positive for him, for his community, and for lions actually around the world. This is a young man. He's 13 years old. He hates lions because he's been, since the age of 9, having to tend the family's cows, goats, and sheep from falling prey to hungry lions. So he said they used to come at night and feed on our cattle when we were sleeping. And they're right on the edge of the Nairobi National Park in Kenya. And he's been safeguarding them for several years. And he said that he had to think of something to save the family's herds. And he said one day he was walking around and he discovered that the lions were scared of moving lights. He noticed that when people were going by with flashlights or whatever, the lions stayed away. They were afraid. So he put his little mind to work, and a few weeks later, he came up with an absolutely amazing, simple, and low-cost system to scare the lions away. Well, it could work with any predator that would respond to the light. And he fitted a series of flashing LED bulbs, them little tiny ones that are really, really bright. He put them onto poles around the livestock enclosure facing outward. And the lights were wired to a box with switches and to an old car battery powered by a solar panel. And they were designed to flicker off intermittently, simulating somebody walking with the flashlight. You know how you swing your arm. And it worked. He said since he's rigged up what they call in the lion lights, his family has not lost any livestock. And it's become such a big hit that the neighbors all came and wanted him to put in his system. And he's put up some 75 lion light systems rigged up around Kenya. And he's been recognized. Well, he received an invitation to the TED 2013 conference. And I didn't look up what TED was. But it says he'll share the stage with some of the world's greatest thinkers, innovators, and scientists. He said, "I did it myself. No one taught me. I just came up with it." He says, "I had to look after my dad's cows and make sure they were safe." And he said there's been large sums of money trying to protect the lions and strengthen the industry. And here his simple little lion lights have made an amazing difference. He said the director of the Kenya Land Conservation says this solution was invented by somebody in the community, and therefore support for it is extremely high. And people say he's quite an extraordinary boy. You give him a problem, he'll work on it till he fixes it. And since then he's been given some opportunity, given scholarships and different things. But there's how he's 13, and you think about what our 13-year-olds are dealing with over here in this country. Here, they're dealing with their batteries dying in their phones, and this boy is out there saving the family's herd from lions. Lions!
Way to go.
Yeah, I thought that was just absolutely amazing. It's
interesting part about it is that this is a blend of technology and
ingenuity.
Primitive agricultural. Yeah. We had party to a conversation a few weeks back when the powers that be were saying that technology was not acceptable at the farmer level in Africa. Well,
Right.
this puts a misnomer on that.
Yeah, well,
now it might be that his father and his grandfather wouldn't understand LED lights.
Right. But the boy
the kid
did.
found out about it, and
Those are them little bright guys.
well, the thing is that he found it, and it was available that he could get his hands on a car battery.
Yeah.
Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about $50 or $5 if
He
you
said
used
an
a
old
used
car
one.
battery,
Yeah,
so it would be
if
in a
your
used one.
used car battery could give you enough
And
to
it said
fire your LED
It
lights.
didn't say how much,
And
how big the solar panel was. So
wouldn't
that
have-
would charge up the
wouldn't have-
battery, and then they would run
Wouldn't
the
have
lights
to
at
be
night.
if you had direct sunlight all of the time.
Right, Africa.
And one the size of a computer
That
would
would be
give
big
you
enough.
a trickle charge.
Well, I've seen those lights like over down by Greenup. There's stop signs that have lights around them, and they're powered by little solar panels on the top
Yeah.
of them. So I'd say one about the size of that screen there. But I just thought that was an amazing story. I mean, here he saw a problem, thought about it, found an absolutely creative and very, very simple way to solve the problem, and the lions are not endangered. There's no harm done to them. The cattle, he said, no cattle lost since he put the lights up. So
Hey.
I think that's an affirmation of his idea.
Well, I have a story here that does the generation gap.
Uh-oh.
The little girl was sitting on her grandfather's lap as he read her a bedtime story, and from time to time she'd take her eyes off the book and reach up and touch his wrinkled cheek. She was alternately stroking her own cheek, and then again she finally spoke up and said, "Grandpa, did God make you?" "Yes, sweetheart," he answered, "God made me long ago." "Oh. Grandpa, did God make me too?" "Yes, indeed, honey. God made you a little while ago." Feeling their respective faces again, she said, "God's getting better at it, ain't he?" So, yeah. So,
Yeah. Hey, well, what can you do? Well, one thing I was thinking that I didn't write down, and history was made this weekend down in Florida by a little lady called Danica. I'm not even sure what her last name is, or if that's her last name, but whatever. She's the first woman ever to be in the Daytona 500. And she finished 8th, which is actually quite respectable. And she did lead, I think, 1 or 2 laps, was the lap leader. And I just think it's amazing. It's like, well, why can't a woman drive a car? And so I thought that was just great. Yeah, we need.
yeah.
I
we
wanted
could-
to remind everybody about blankies here before we go, and we're running out of time again. And they're all homemade, handmade, with these 2 hands right here, if you can see them. And I think that the blankies are really good for the little people. Like, I've watched Shane and some other children with their blankies, and I've done some research, and blankies can provide security and comfort when they're away from the parents or bedtime. And you think about it, toddlers, what do they got to deal with? They've got to deal with a tremendous amount of stuff, and they get stressed too. And they grab that little blankie and just and pretty soon they're all happy.
And asleep.
Yeah, and well, not always. And I've rubbed the blankie. Now I know of a child too that preferred fuzzy balls on the fabric, not satin softy things. So I've been watching different children rubbing different things, and they seem to mostly go for the satin and the softy. But remember, you can see all the blankies on the Facebook. We got the website, and you can order them off the Facebook. And like I said, we're still doing the free delivery in Scioto County. And the older blankies are still $10. Now these are going to be new ones, so they'll be at regular price.
That sounds fantastic.
60 seconds.
Well, I got one story here to round off the day. Young man asked a rich man how he made his money. The guy figured his worsted wool vest, said, "Well, son, back in 1932, the depth of the Great Depression, I was down to my last nickel, and I bought an apple. And I polished it. and I sold it for $1. And then I bought 2 apples and I polished them and I sold them for $0.10 each. That was 20 cents. And I went on, and by the end of the month, I had $1.37. And that's how you build an empire, he asked the kid. And the old man said, oh, I know. Then my wife's father died and left us $2 million. Thank you for listening to our broadcast today. It's a cruel world and we live in it. We'll be back next week around 2 p.m. Where we'll discuss more interesting things that we find. I'm Steve.
I'm Teresa.
Thank you for listening.
Be positive.
Think positive.
Live positive.
And enjoy.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Gigi Blankies, thank you for listening to the podcast today. This program is archived at Blog Talk Radio, captured and archived for YouTube video, and linked to Facebook as Musings with Steve and Teresa. Think positive, be positive, live positive, and enjoy.